Hello and welcome to C-Suite Secrets. I'm Heather Parsons, your host, a serial entrepreneur, fractional CFO, and a business value strategist. I've spent years juggling business and family life, all while helping entrepreneurs scale, optimize cash flow, and build real financial success. On our show, we bring you real conversations with founders, executives, and operators about what actually moves the needle in their business. No fluff, no filler, just smart strategy, systems that work, and insights that you can put to use right away. With that, let's dive right in. Normally, this is the part where I introduce a guest, but today we're going to do things a little differently. Today on C-Suite Secrets, it's just you and me. I want to talk about the number one issue I see with almost every client that I work with. That issue is the idea that revenue equals freedom. Spoiler alert, it really doesn't. So in this episode, we're going to unpack why revenue isn't freedom and what to actually do about it. Let's start with the question. Have you ever looked at your business and thought, why doesn't this feel easier yet? Maybe your revenue looks good on paper, but your stress level, it still feels sky high. Maybe you're bringing in consistent sales, but your bank account isn't moving in the direction that you expected. Or maybe you're wondering why you're still the one holding everything together. Here's the truth most entrepreneurs eventually face. Revenue isn't freedom. It's a piece of the puzzle, but it's not the whole picture. Freedom comes from control, from clarity, and from knowing what's actually happening in your business and making decisions based on facts, not feelings. Today, I want to dig into that difference, and I want to do it in a way that speaks to where you are right now, whether you're still building your foundation or already scaling and looking for stability. This isn't a lecture, it's a conversation. Because if you've ever wondered why you're working so hard and still not feeling free, this episode is for you. Let's be real. I see this all the time. Entrepreneurs chasing more sales, believing that the next client, the next product, or the next launch will finally make things click. But what happens? The business might actually get bigger, but the owner also just gets busier. When I was preparing to leave my corporate job, I started to notice a pattern. So many amazing entrepreneurs were making decisions based on how they felt instead of what their numbers actually showed. It wasn't because they weren't smart. It was because they were tired, overwhelmed, and honestly just doing the best they could to keep up. And a lot of those entrepreneurs didn't really like digging into the numbers, so they put it off as long as possible. And I get it. A lot of us, myself included, weren't initially taught how to make money work for us. We were taught how to work for it. But when you're running your business purely on emotion without visibility into what's working, what's leaking, it's like driving a car with fogged up windows. You might stay on the road for a little while, but eventually something's going to hit you. That's why so many entrepreneurs end up in what I like to call the revenue trap. You're making money, but you're not keeping it. You're growing, but you're really not scaling. You're working harder, but you're not feeling any freer. So if that's where you are right now, take a breath. You're not broken. There's nothing wrong with you. You actually might be good at math. You just need a little bit better system. I'll never forget one of my early clients. We were looking through his numbers and he said, Heather, I feel like if I get sick, this whole business is going to stop. Unfortunately, he was right because he was the business. If he didn't show up, money didn't come in. So the first thing that we did was figure out what it would take for him to not be the bottleneck anymore. Could he afford to hire someone to take on part of that delivery work that he was doing? Would that break his budget or actually free up his time for growth potential? Once we modeled it out, he saw something that he really hadn't seen before and hadn't expected. He could afford it, and he could even project when that investment would pay for itself. Within a few months, his revenue went up, but that wasn't even the real win. The win was that he could finally think strategically again. He could take a day off without the whole thing collapsing. That's what happens whenever you start making decisions based on facts instead of feelings. And that shift from reaction to intention, that's where freedom begins. When I start working with new clients, we almost always uncover the same few aha moments. First, they realize they don't actually know which of their products or services are most profitable. They might be spending tons of energy on an offer that's barely even breaking even. Second, they see that their pricing may not reflect the value they provide or the current market. Sometimes they're undercharging out of fear, other times they're pricing themselves out of reach. And third, they start to see where their money is actually going. It could be software subscriptions, software, overlaps, drains. We fix all that. But the biggest shift happens when we add one more simple habit, a weekly financial check-in. It's simple. No spreadsheet from the IRS, no MBA required, just you and your actual numbers in your bank account, just 20 minutes every week. That's where business owners start to feel grounded because now they know they're not guessing. They know. Once my clients start doing those weekly check-ins, everything changes. Even if they don't love what the numbers say at first, they finally see the truth, and that truth gives them power. They can decide when to make their next hire, whether to take on debt or seek funding, and when it's time to grow or just hold steady. With that power, they start creating a plan for their money, not just reacting to what's coming in and what goes out. The very first thing that we do after we build all of that is we really start to align their cash flow forecast with their goals. We want to know, are we growing towards an exit? Are we building towards a passive income or real estate investments, which is definitely my favorite? And are we freeing up cash for new opportunities? Because once your money has a plan and its work boots on, your business finally starts working for you. When I think about why I do this work, I think about my parents. They worked incredibly hard running a small restaurant whenever I was a teenager. They did everything right. They worked long hours, they treated people well, they gave it their all. But sometimes hard work, it just isn't enough. That's why this mission really matters to me. Because I've seen what happens when good people with good businesses never get the financial clarity they deserve. They burn out, they quit too early, they unfortunately have to sometimes shut their doors, or they have to sell for less than what their business is actually worth. And it doesn't have to be that way. Freedom isn't about not working hard, it's about working with intention. It's about knowing where your business stands, what's next, and how to build something that really lasts. Whether you're just starting out, building momentum, or scaling past 7 figures, that kind of clarity is what turns entrepreneurs into legacy builders. So here's what I want you to take away from today. You don't need to manage 1,000 different metrics. You don't need to do every single thing at once. You need to start small. Track a handful of key numbers that matter. Build out your cash flow forecast so that you know where you're at and where you're headed. Take a look at your weighted pipeline. Look at your net profit to see how much money you're actually keeping every month. And think about and look at where you're headed next, because what you monitor and what you manage, it really matters. If this episode got you thinking about how to take control of your cash flow and you're ready to get off that hamster wheel and build a business that supports your life, not the other way around, we'd love to help you out with that. Check out our new Financial Freedom Accelerator. You don't have to struggle through this one alone. When we work together, you'll keep more cash, scale smarter, and finally start building the freedom that you started your business for. Thank you to everybody for listening to C-Suite Secrets. If you found today's episode valuable, be sure to hit that like and follow button and share with someone building a business. If you want more tips on how to grow your business between episodes, you can join me on Facebook at C-Suite Insiders and follow me for more on Instagram at Heather Parsons Official. Until next time, keep growing and remember, you don't have to do this alone.